Hey, that's not clickbait either. It says so right on the box. Drop proof up to 35 ounces onto concrete, as well as saying fully submersible. Don't worry, we're gonna be testing that. But before we get to the good stuff, you probably wanna know what kind of optic it even is. You're looking at the new Cyelee Wolf EDG. The EDG stands for Enclosed Duty Grade. It's one of Cyelee's first enclosed optics. It has some great features like shake awake, night vision settings, pretty much like any other pistol optic in this price range. In terms of size, the Wolf EDG has about the same glass size as a Trijicon RMR or a Holosun 507C. With that out of the way, let's go over the water resistance testing. I did that since I didn't know if it would pass the drop test. The first couple hundred rounds I did with Wolf EDG was in moderate to heavy rain sitting on top of my Glock 19. And although I did have a lot of good points to bring up, the audio kind of sounds like this due to heavy rain.
Let's see.
Yeah. I love it when weather cucks my shots. Long story short, the optic held up well during that range day. Didn't have any fogging on the inside of the glass, pretty much where you can't wipe it off. That means that the optic was properly purged and sealed, which allows the optic to be used in temperature or humidity changes, stuff like that. And I believe accuracy held up well. If I could take pot shots at 35 yards with no issues, I would call that pretty accurate. Overall, this range day shows the upside of having an enclosed optic on your pistol. Water, or dust for that matter, won't get into your laser emitter and cause havoc. Since the laser is protected by an enclosed space, there's a higher chance it'll be ready when you need it. So the Wolf EDG handled the water polo range day with no issues. Let's get to that drop test. And I definitely picked out an interesting pistol for it. Yes, we are using a Hi-Point YC9, also known as the Yeet Cannon. Probably not the best choice for pistols, but we make do on this channel, right? The weight of the YC9, the adapter, and the Wolf is within spitting distance of the max weight that the Wolf can sustain when it's dropped from about 6 feet, which I think it's 35 ounces or something like that. Honestly, in that regard, I couldn't think of a better pistol to try. The Glock is a lot lighter, of course, so this will really put a full drop test weight onto the Wolf when we drop it out here on the flat top range. When I took the Wolf off of the Glock and put it on the Hi-Point, I didn't re-zero it just because I don't have a frame of reference. I don't have backup iron sights to kind of roughly zero it in. But I think it's doing okay. At 7 yards with the red dot on directly on the A, yeah, I mean, it's down to the right. That could be my trigger, a little bit, my trigger finger, but I mean, it's relatively centered, I think. So for the test, before I drop the Wolf, I'm going to aim at the left side of this target. And then once we complete a couple drop tests, we'll aim to the right and, see if the optic holds zero. All right, let's see how we did. So yeah, about in line with what I was looking at on the other targets. Yeah, down and to the right. So we're gonna be looking for this same spread once we drop the Wolf. So I think we have the Wolf ready to drop test. As you can see, it is clear. The only thing I really did to the Wolf was I did tape off the glass with electrical tape just because freak things happen, right? $1,000 optics can shatter instantly if they hit a piece of gravel. I wanted to make sure that the glass doesn't break on the gravel on the first drop, because I kind of want to see how the mechanisms inside the red dot hold up to drop test, not just to see if the glass will break, because the glass will probably break. We're gonna drop at about 5 feet just for starters, and we'll transition up to 6 feet. Without further ado, oof. I think it hit right on the hood of the optic. So I guess let me take the tape off really quick and we'll double check the zero. And if it did survive, we'll drop it a few more times with slow-mo too for the ultra video YouTube cred and go from there. Good news is that the red dot is still functional. It's still able to be used. Bad news is I may start to see I mean, hopefully the camera can see it too, that it may be shifting a little further away from the dot. Granted, down to the right is textbook, jerking the trigger for a left-hander. But considering I'm doing it so consistently between the two dots, and I'm taking such a long time in between shots to make sure that I have the dot steady, I do believe that this may just be the red dot slightly shifting. All right, double checking that the high point is in fact clear, nothing in the chamber. All right, let's do a couple more drops and then also shoot some more slow-mo. I figure about 5 drops or so. Ooh, that was a good one right there. All right, well, if there was a contest of being able to hold up to drops, I think the Wolf is at least looking the part. It doesn't seem too badly deformed or anything, just a couple scrapes here and there. And the glass is still not cracked or anything. Okay, so we took, I think 4 or 5 shots right at the middle target. So going from no drops to 1 drop to 5 drops, at least to me, I see kind of low right, lower right, and then maybe the red dot got shifted a little more directly right to the dot. Since all the bullets are kind of consistent with each other, I will tend to believe that I'm not pulling the trigger at least that hard. Take that as you will. It could be me being a crap shot. It could be the high point kind of throwing shots, since we are using an adapter to get the red dot onto the rail. So there could be some play on the accuracy on that. Or kind of conclude from it that the Wolf was kind of shifting the zero just a little bit, which, like to me, dropping the red dot on the maximum amount of weight and then dropping it from the maximum height, to me, that would seem like you would have to just re-zero it. I know, like, if you drop a zero, if you drop a laser, an IR laser device like the SMS Laser HFXC, you definitely need to check zero. And if I had dropped my Glock with, my Holosun red dot on it, I would definitely want to check the zero too. And zeros do deviate every so often, especially after, hundreds of rounds or thousands of rounds or whatever. It's up for you to decide if the change in zero is a deal breaker on the Wolf, but I'm just happy that it survived the drop test. And just to double check with you guys, none of the adapter plates moved or shifted. You can see the point or the marks that I put onto the pick rail and everything. And none of the screws, or I guess bolts, became undone. Man, and the finish on the high point didn't really handle the abuse, huh? It came off pretty easily. Granted, it is granite, and it's a Zamax steel on a $180 gun. I think I have something that can fix that. Hey, already looks a lot better. Ready for the next torture test. At this point, I've had multiple range trips, as well as the torture test and shooting in the rain. And I do like the Wolf. It has proven itself to be somewhat resilient, at least resilient enough for it not to break. And, capable of keeping zero as long as you're not dropping it on a heavy ass high point. There's really only 2 main issues with this red dot that I could see someone having an issue with, and probably picking a Holosun over the Wolf when it comes to an enclosed budget optic. The first is the looks. I mean, I think they shaped the enclosure to kind of handle drops and stuff, but honestly, every time I see the Wolf, I think of like a mid-2000s pair of Oakley glasses. Like really angular, really kind of a lot of squarish, angles everywhere, looks really cool and everything, at least, at the time. But it is 2025 and people aren't really making glasses like that anymore. And every time I see this red dot, I kind of just picture Oakley. The biggest point for me is the battery door. For some reason, the battery door is off at an angle. It's not completely flat or horizontal like every other red dot that I've encountered. That may be because of the drop test capability, but that may also be just for the sake of being crooked. I'm not sure. And of course, the second is the price. Right now, these are going for high 200s, $280, $290 or something like that, at least on Amazon and on Wolf's website with discount codes and whatnot. Make sure to check mine out, by the way. And that's within spitting distance of the Holosun enclosed budget, red dot optic. Holosun has a lot more prevalence in the shooting community. You can find them at local gun stores. They're all over Amazon. They're all over a bunch of resellers. And, Cyelee has their work cut out for them to try to compete with that, I think. If you're looking for a pistol optic that can take a fall, as well as having great dust and water resistance, I definitely recommend you give it a look. I want to say thanks to Cyelee for sending out the Wolf for review. They had no say in making of this video, and we'll see it for the first time here on YouTube. Let me know if you want to see more optic torture testing in future videos. I had a great time with the Wolf, and look forward to doing it some more. Maybe I'll even get a P320 or something for drop testing. Until then, stay tuned. Just got done with gun range. Got little chicks. We're not using them as targets though.